Folks, nobody likes a fraud. Whether it's a man behind a curtain, whether it's a snake oil salesman, or whether it's a president of the United States, I think it's safe to say that nobody likes it. And we do like when fraud is exposed. Like, for instance, if a certain someone has a university that gets flagged for fraud, we agree that should be shut down. People should not be defrauded from uh, they should not be defrauded from their money. Or if there's a case of fraud having to do with a charitable foundation, where people donate their money to help people. They don't want their money going for other crap. And then, of course, there are dozens of little scams and schemes that separate fools from their money. It's not necessarily fraud, but it doesn't feel right. It feels like you're being taken advantage of from somebody who should not be taking advantage of you. So that's why when stories come out, like the huge bombshell that dropped this weekend, where serious independent journalist Nick Shirley, a nonpartisan professional with no kind of ulterior motive or partisan agenda, when he breaks a story like the one that happened in Minnesota, we should all sit up and take note, right? Is it too late to nominate him for a Pulitzer Prize? I'm kidding, of course. But that didn't stop all of the important and not so important people in the right-wing ecosystem from boosting this guy's harrowing story of buildings without kids and why won't you let me and these random masked strangers in to film your kids? Why didn't that approach open more doors? The point is, those doors didn't need to be opened. That was kind of the point. They decided what the story, or Nick decided what the story was going to be before he even got to any of these places. He decided what footage he needed in order to frame this story the way he wanted. That's not journalism, folks. That's propaganda. And today we are going to break down exactly why this sort of phony journalism should be shunned and ridiculed into oblivion, and anyone who promotes it should get the same treatment. Also, why did the vice president of the United States senators, and Elon Musk all bend over backwards to boost this narrative? What do they have to gain from fooling you, from fooling us? So we are going to get into it. So I hope you are ready, because I am. Let's go. Story time. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad, and happy New Year's Eve, folks. I hope you are ready to begin the new year. If you're planning to go out and get your drink on and cuddle a rug, I hope you are safe. I hope you have a designated driver plan to escort you to drive you home safe and sound. You can drive. And I shouldn't have to say that in 2025 going into 26, but I'm saying, but please be safe. That goes for all of you folks. You're right-wing scum. You want detractors, the people who can't stand. I want you to be safe too. I don't know why, but this audio is weird echo. I'm not sure why my audio sounds weird. Yeah. Hang on. Hang on. How does that sound, guys? Does it still sound me? Damn, I hate for my sound to be screwy. Isn't that funny? Hello? Okay, can you guys hear me? I do not know what has happened other than the powers that be are, are determined to, to keep me from telling my story today. Keep me from telling a story today. So okay, much better, good. Okay, let's the graphic, the title for today's is Mr. Debunked, and of course, the Minnesota child care or care fraud story. Honestly, there is obviously because it's been roll out of bed and just going to oh my god, this is I don't think I've ever experienced this before. So this, this is a big story that they don't want reported on. They don't want people talking about it. There is obviously some kind of there is obviously some people trying to keep me from informing you guys of the truth. But I am back, and it says sound is not so good. We're gonna do the best we can to get through this together. Let's see if I can. Let's see the sound here's microphone is fine. Headphones are fine. right, let's see if we can stabilize this thing. Okay, so top story today is that Nick Shirley, YouTuber, went to Minnesota and basically jumped out of a van and accosted and confronted a bunch of people who work at these daycare centers in Minnesota, and already had the idea in his brain, already had a notion that there was fraud afoot, and that was how he was going to frame this story. So there's one. Number two, we are going to do a top Trump L's for 2025, the biggest things that Trump swung and missed on. And we're also going to do biggest wins for Democrats in 2025. And at the end, I will share with you what my hopes and expectations and dreams are for 2026. Please, if this is your first time here, please hit the hit the like and subscribe button. I don't know why my microphone is acting schizo right now. It keeps switching. This is the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced in a long time. But yeah, let's get on with it. Minnesota. Why is Minnesota in the news right now? Anybody explain why Minnesota is in the news? Because it's not Prince. Prince has long left us. It's not the Vikings. It's the fact that Tim Walz is running for re-election. It's the fact that Donald Trump has decided that Ilhan Omar is his public enemy number one, and he has decided to attack her personally. And so, yes, some people are saying fraud, like the Noble Messenger saying that's the reason why it's in the news. But you must have missed my intro, because if fraud were the issue, then why aren't we talking about, the half dozen times that Donald Trump has been implicated by fraud? Why aren't we talking about the fact that Rick Scott was involved, engrossed in one of the biggest Medicare fraud scams in history? We could get into that, but for right now, we're going to discuss why Donald Trump has decided to make Minnesota and in general, and Ilhan Omar and the Somalian community his persona non grata, his enemies. So I'm going to share with you right now. Several weeks ago, Donald Trump had his cabinet meeting, and here's where he let people know how he feels about Somalians.
They got a lot of legs to build our country. Is at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. They came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much.
There is the president of the United States implying that if if you complain, that if you complain, you are less of an American. You are less entitled to, you are less entitled to freedom of speech. Um, if you complain, then you must not love America. And that's just wrong. That goes against everything that being American is about. Back in 1776, you know, our forefathers, they thought freedom of speech was so important, they made it the very first amendment. So the fact that he would discount what she's saying, uh, yeah. Treyanne here says, does he hear himself? He is the biggest crybaby complainer. Exactly. And, you know, we have the right as Americans, as even non citizens, whoever is here in America, believe it or not, has the right to complain about stuff. And that includes fraudsters like Nick Shirley, right? Here we go. So, who is Nick Shirley? Well, if you believe his account, he says he is a 23-year-old, 100% independent. He has posted a full YouTube video every week for the past 104 weeks. Congratulations to you. Helped expose the border crisis. Yeah, because nobody knew there was a crisis at the border at all, despite the fact that that was all that's all the right wing has been talking about forever, long before your 104-week streak. Briefed President Trump in the White House about Antifa. What could you have possibly told Trump about Antifa that would add value to, that would educate anybody about Antifa? Did you tell them where the headquarters are? Did you tell them who the employees are? Because the guy that was grilled in that House oversight hearing, he had no information. And he says he ended Tim Walz's career. Now, isn't that clever, right? Because that's what all journalists aim to do. They aim to show that they are partisan, and they aim to end the careers of politicians. That's what journalism's all about, isn't it? No, it's not. No, it's not. That's what propagandists are all about. JD Vance here tweeted, this dude has done far more useful journalism than any of the winners of the 2024 Pulitzer Prizes. Come on. Elon Musk, who never passes up an opportunity to make himself look even more ridiculous, says, you are the media now. No, he's not. Not even close. So who is Nick Shirley? Nick Shirley is a guy who, as we've already established, he is a YouTuber. And in this particular instance here, as was reported by Reuters, he went to a half dozen Hispanic day laborers and paid them $20 each to parade in front of the White House on camera, holding signs with slogans like, I love Biden and I need work permit for my family. That doesn't sound very journalistic, does it? That doesn't sound like somebody, looking to report the truth. It sounds like somebody trying to frame a narrative. That is all Nick Shirley is about. That is his game, hook, line, and sinker. We want to take you to the White House, Shirley told the men he recruited at a Home Depot parking lot where day laborers typically wait for jobs, in a video later posted to YouTube. What Biden did for migrants is very kind, right? Letting everyone come in. So we're going to show him and say thank you. Shirley, a 22-year-old with more than 318,000 followers on social media, is among a new class of influencers supportive of Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, who are helping shape the immigration debate as the U.S. election campaign heats up. This is obviously an older article, but it doesn't make what he did any less grotesque. And then the Tennessee Holler, who frequently, these guys constantly post some good content. So if you're not following the Tennessee Holler, make sure you do. Minnesota Public Radio reports the Republican caucus there was behind steering Nick Shirley to the daycares and shaping the narrative. And local outlets had reported about more than 62 investigations into child care centers and covered it for years. So, folks, we're not talking about something brand new. We're not talking about a deep dive, like a scoop that Nick Shirley, this guy who is an intrepid reporter who happened to follow a lead. Nah, this is a guy who's being used to create a narrative for Minnesota Republicans. So Donald Trump posted who his enemy is way back on December 2nd. December 2nd was the day when that cabinet meeting was held, and Donald Trump announced that Somalians are garbage. And then 3.5 weeks later, we get this. We get this nonsense. I want to show you another clip of who Nick Shirley is, right? Nick Shirley was outed by this individual here. Guru Merck exposes Nick Shirley for propaganda and bad journalism ethics. So Nick Shirley apparently went to Ukraine and tried to craft a narrative while hundreds and thousands of people are dying. He went there with the camera and looked around. He went to a place that was not affected by any bombs or any shooting or killing. He went to a safe zone. And his caption on the video was, "This is what your tax dollars are going to," which is incredibly disingenuous. Incredibly. These people in Ukraine are fighting tooth and nail for their lives, for their homes. And he made it look like it's a scam, like there's no fighting going on anywhere whatsoever. So this guy here, Guru Merck, basically put him on blast, and it was pretty incredible. I'm going to share this with you now.
A war in Ukraine, you were basically trying to... So here's the caption you put up. $175 billion goes a long way. This is the capital of Ukraine. You're giving me all this great context. Where's the context in that tweet?
Yeah, if you go look at all the other tweets I put out, there's a lot of context as well.
So that's backtracking because you had a massive amount of backlash from Ukrainians, rightfully. But why didn't you put that in the original tweet?
Because that wasn't the idea of the original tweet.
Do you understand why people in this country are pretty pissed off with you?
One post does not define everything I did while I was in Ukraine.
Well, I think what you were doing is to try and show that there maybe isn't a war in Ukraine. You were basically trying to ride this sort of Tim Pool grifter type wave, saying, pulling silly faces, smirking at the people of this country, saying, this is where your tax dollars are going. You cannot avoid that. That is literally what you did. Everybody agrees. Everybody in the comments agrees. That's what you were doing. Why can't you admit that?
Because I do not believe by making satire on the internet commits a crime by any means. And
okay, so
going back.
This is a huge revelation. So you were actually doing satire
in that post.
So it was satire.
Is there anything wrong with satire?
I know exactly what you were trying to do. You failed in doing it because you've received more backlash and more hate than support, and I guess now you're backpedaling.
I wouldn't say that.
What would you say then? Where did you go in East Ukraine?
I went to, isn't Bucha East Ukraine? Or I went somewhere where there was Bucha.
So Bucha is a 20-minute drive north of Kyiv. Where did you go in East Ukraine?
That's where I went. I went to Bucha. Is that not east of Ukraine?
Oh, God. It makes me despair that you've come here, you don't even know the difference between East Ukraine and somewhere that's a 20-minute drive north of Kyiv.
So Nick Shirley, who is busy calling himself a journalist, basically got called out on the spot to say, you don't know what the hell you're even talking about. He didn't even go to the place where he said he was going. That's crazy. So what's even crazier is that anybody is giving this guy any legitimate props for what he did in Minnesota. Let's take a detour here. When earlier I was talking about fraud. If you care about fraud, let's talk about Rick Scott. Let's talk about Philip S. Formas, who was recently pardoned by Trump, despite the fact that he is also a fraudster to the tune of over $1 billion. Okay. We can do whataboutism until we're blue in the face. The fact remains that these Minnesota daycare centers have been investigated. There are already over 70 people under indictment, so it's not like nothing has happened. And in fact, many of the people who, many of the Somalians who live there are the ones who were whistleblowers on the fraud for I think it's called feeding families. I think is the story that they're talking about that's already unfolding for fraud. There's certain people saying it was a psyop, and you fell for it. While you were distracted, Israel secured another $9 billion and secured U.S. involvement in a war with Iran. Says Nick Shirley presents themselves as exposing something hidden. His video does not start a new investigation or reveal information. It repackages an ongoing federal case that had already been charged, prosecuted, and widely reported. Here's TP Blue saying Social Security is this admin's next target. They've lied about Social Security fraud. The cutbacks have deteriorated service. They still have no solution for funds running out. Okay. So that goes to another point I wanted to make about waste, fraud, and abuse. Ever since Donald Trump came into office the second time, he and his minions like Elon Musk and his cabinet members have been repeating waste, fraud, and abuse like a mantra, as though that is their catch-all, be-all phrase for exposing waste, exposing fraud, exposing abuse. It's their get-out-of-jail-free card. It's their carte blanche reason for going in and cutting shit. So they made cuts to USAID, which, by the way, has been an extremely helpful program that helped people across the globe, that helped boost our cachet as world leaders, and now it's gone. And there were allegations of fraud that we, the public, never saw, but they just said waste, fraud, and abuse. We're gonna snatch, we're gonna cut. It's as if they believe all they have to do is wave this waste, fraud, and abuse wand, and that gives them the reason to just cut wherever they feel like cutting. Doge, by the way, did not save Americans any money at all. It ended up costing us $453 billion, despite thousands of firings, despite millions and billions of dollars cut from critical programs, and that includes cancer research funding. And they still didn't save us any money. So Where was all this waste, fraud, and abuse? What the hell did you cut? Meredith Powell says, Doge didn't do shit. Indeed. So what did Nick Shirley do? Nick Shirley went to these daycare centers at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where many of these places didn't open until 2. So he went there when the daycare centers were closed and tried to make it look as though, hey, where's the kids? There's no kids here. This must be fraud. And they were just closed. Look, if you want to find fraud, find it legitimately, but don't go in there with an agenda, because then you become like Project Veritas. You guys remember Project Veritas, that James O'Keefe clown show where nobody took him seriously because it always ended up being some kind of skit, some kind of act that he was putting on. Let's see. Let me open up this video here. This is reporting, and this is actual reporting from a local CBS affiliate who actually went and did some actual journalism. This kind of debunks Nick Shirley. This is what kind of debunks Nick Shirley's whole thing.
This is ABC Learning Center in Minneapolis.
They have to learn ABC and numbers.
Director Ahmed Hassan gave WCCO a tour after finding his daycare in the national spotlight.
All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center.
In a now viral video, right-wing YouTuber Nick Shirley claims nearly a dozen daycare centers in Minnesota are taking public funds but not providing a service. He says ABC Learning Center is one of them, knocking on the door in mid-December.
I would like to check a child in the daycare.
Hassan says his employee didn't respond because Shirley was in a group of about 8 people, and his staff were concerned about recent ICE activity.
Nick Shirley was in a group of 8 people. Most of them had masks on. Anybody who has paid attention to social media or to the news has seen these things about ICE, and absolutely you should be leery of a bunch of people wearing masks demanding entrance.
This daycare committing fraud?
No, we're not committing fraud.
Hassan showed us security footage from the same day Shirley was here. According to the timestamps in the videos, this woman takes a young child into the center at around 9 a.m. that day, about 3 hours before Shirley arrives at the door closer to the street. Within the hour after Shirley leaves, a woman arrives at the other door with a stroller. A larger family heads inside a few hours later. Tuesday afternoon, WCCO found at least a dozen.
Just so we're clear, Nick Shirley wasn't even at the right door.
Children at ABC Learning Center, which is licensed with the state. Records show Minnesota officials last visited the daycare in November, noting some corrected and ongoing violations related to day-to-day operations, but no record of fraud.
What did I do? I'm just a typical human being who wants to live and do the right thing. I have kids to feed.
Umi Hassan, the daycare's current owner, believes these latest fraud accusations are political. Both she and Hassan are Somali Americans.
We pay our taxes. We do whatever we can to be a law-abiding citizen. At the same time, when one Somali does something wrong, we all get collective punishment.
With Shirley's video now approaching 2.3 million views on YouTube alone, they say they are getting nonstop phone calls harassing them.
I was looking for a place for my granddaughter.
With many of those calls attached to out-of-state phone numbers.
They normally say, knock, knock, we're going to come.
Yep.
You're going to arrest, something like that.
Hassan says they turned over attendance records to comply with the Department of Homeland Security request. They're now waiting to hear back. CBS News is reviewing records related to the same daycares. All but 2 have active licenses. And Aaron, while the active places have violations related to safety or staff training, there's no recorded evidence.
You see that, guys? So real journalism does not require shenanigans. It doesn't require tomfoolery. It doesn't require hoodwinking somebody. It just requires asking questions. No dramatics. No, oh, I want to see about getting my kid in here. Come on. You're 23 years old. Get out of here. Another thing that he did, which was reprehensible, was he exploited the fact that the people that he was speaking to, there was a language barrier, right? So it kind of made it look as though they weren't forthcoming. There was a language barrier. In another clip, he actually tried to yank the door open, and the woman behind the door pulled it shut. There are rules and regulations, especially dealing with kids. Republicans, you claim to want to protect kids. You claim that that's your mantra. That's the thing that you're most concerned about. Then why do you support some randos going to childcare centers, trying to gain access to it, and film kids? Replay that sentence in your head and see if that makes sense, huh? In fact, do this instead. Replace Nick Shirley's face with the face of a Black person or a Latino person. Go ahead, do that, and see if you still have that same level of comfort with somebody going in where your kids are filming. This whole story is disgusting. It's disgusting because it is not being done in good faith. It is being done with the intention of vilifying a community, the same way Donald Trump did in 2024 with the Haitians, saying they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs. This was a story that was obviously debunked, and he didn't care. He ran with it anyway, just for the point of having a target, having brown or Black people to target and vilify and have them ostracized and have them harassed. And also, it's a test run for what the Republicans have started to do is declare things are fraudulent, and declaring that it's fraudulent they believe gives them the right to have access to take it over, to cut it, take it over, do whatever the hell they want to do with it. So what's the problem with that? The problem with that is now we're talking about things like the Affordable Care Act, right? They've been saying for the past 4 or 5 months, as we've been fighting for them to extend the subsidies so that our affordable care rates don't go through the roof. They were like, well, there's problems. There's fraud. There's fraud in the Affordable Care Act. There's fraud there. As if that's the reason why they're not going to extend the subsidies. So what happens when you don't extend the subsidies? When you don't extend them, people lose their health care because they can't afford to be on it anymore. And if enough people lose their health care and enough people are unable to afford the Affordable Care Act, guess what? Then the Affordable Care Act is essentially dead. So that's been their scheme all along, is we're not going to support it. We don't have any ideas. We don't have any solutions. We don't have a plan for healthcare. What we do have is a way to is a way to hijack something that has been giving people health care for the past 15 years, and we don't have anything to replace it with. So that's what we're looking at right now. And that's not the end of it. It's also going to happen with Social Security. Same thing. They're saying that there is fraud and waste in Social Security. Right now, there have been 7,000 people let go from Social Security, from the Social Security division. So that means that there is a backlog of millions of people trying to get help with Social Security. At some point, probably in 2026, maybe 2027, maybe after the midterms, somebody's going to say, hey, Social Security isn't working anymore. We're going to have to privatize it. And what happens when they privatize it? They can do whatever the hell they want to do with it. You and I have been paying into Social Security our entire lives. And now is not the time. I'm 57, going on 58. Now is not the time to mess with my Social Security. Keep these shenanigans and schemes to yourself. We don't want any part of that. Leave our Social Security alone. But this Minnesota child care situation is like a test balloon to see if they can get away with it. And at the expense of a really nice Somalian community. I did write a Substack about that, about this situation this week. It's called Something About Minnesota Doesn't Add Up. And it isn't the fraud claims. The outrage is new. The investigation is not. So why the sudden pylon from Musk World and the MAGA ecosystem? If the outrage were about government waste, they would be screaming about fraudulent PPP loans that enrich millionaires. You guys remember that? PPP from the COVID years? They would be furious about COVID relief scams that dwarf daycare funds. They would bring receipts for fraud everywhere. But they are not. Only Minnesota matters today. Only Somali suspects are circulating. Only one narrative is being hand-fed to the public like popcorn at a carnival. That is when my eyebrow went up. If real fraud is happening, prosecute it. I will stand with anyone who demands accountability and transparency. But accountability is not a YouTube video. It is evidence. It is prosecution. It is process. And the truth does not need a viral army to make it real. So I'm not saying that there is no fraud. I am saying we should not let influencers replace investigators. We should value facts more than clicks. And we should never let political opportunists decide who the public should fear. Because I've seen this movie before. First, they frame the story. Then they frame the people. So let's go ahead and jump into the biggest Trump losses of 2025. Oh, we have a birthday here. Meredith, is it Meredith Powell? Happy birthday, Meredith. Glad you could join us here on your birthday. I hope you get to enjoy many more trips around the sun. This was a pretty big loss. All of his losses are kind of big, because he is the president of the United States, so everything is magnified. But he made a very big deal in Alaska about welcoming Vladimir Putin, who, frankly, in my opinion, should never be permitted on American soil. That's my opinion. But yeah, he went the full, red carpet treatment, and he skipped and he practically skipped over to meet Vladimir Putin. He was so excited to welcome his boy crush to the United States, to U.S. soil. And the whole purpose of this summit in Alaska was that he, the great deal maker, was supposed to come away with a ceasefire deal, terms of a ceasefire to stop the war in Ukraine. This war, by the way, which he insisted he would only need 24 hours to end. People love to let him off the hook when he says he's going to do something and then he doesn't do it. Well, that's not what he meant. Actually, he said it so many times. How could he have meant anything other than that? He never laughed the way people laugh after they tell a joke. If it's not meant to be taken seriously, then usually you get some kind of indication like, guys, I'm just kidding. No, none of that. 24 hours. And we are, I think, somebody do the math. I think we're well past 7,000 hours since he was supposed to have ended this war. So by the end of his summit with Vladimir Putin, once again, he went into this meeting ill-equipped. I think he had that guy, Steve Witkoff, and nobody else to help him. Monique Lee says, not just my opinion. Glad to hear it. So yeah, by the end of that summit, this is the look Trump had on his face. I think it's perfect. It looks like he's got a bad taste in his mouth, like his diaper is full. Does not have the look of confidence as though he has achieved anything, because he achieved nothing. Speaking of achieving nothing, Donald Trump on his birthday had a military parade. This was something he wanted to do during his first term. He's so jealous of those dictators across the ocean, President Xi and Kim Jong-un. He wanted his own military parade, and this was as pathetic as any parade you've ever seen. Incidentally, this parade also happened. Meredith, you're a few seconds ahead of me. She's laughing. She says, the squeak parade. I forgot about that. So embarrassing. Let's replay that, shall we? Yeah. So this parade happened to coincide with one of the protest marches against Donald Trump. I think it was hands off because we weren't doing the No Kings until much later in the year. But when I saw that squeaky tank thing, I lost it. That took me out. Here we go. I just want to point out to you there, what's especially funny about these marching soldiers here is that you will never see a less uniform march ever by soldiers. You guys have seen the army movies. They all walk in unison, right arm, left, right, left. These guys are just like walking to the mall or something. It's sad. Let's see, where was I? Here we go. Let's do this. So yeah, that's a big L. Donald Trump decided that he wanted to slap his name on yet another building. And this isn't just any old building. This is a building that was dedicated to former and deceased President John F. Kennedy, who was killed by an assassin's bullet. And he decided that he was going to circumvent Congress because you need a congressional act in order to add any living president's name to a building. He appointed so many people to the Kennedy Center's board that they held a vote to change the rules. Oh, and Claudia, thank you for putting that up there. Rest in peace to Tatiana Schlossberg, who just passed away yesterday at the age of 35. Tragic. This Kennedy family is, oh boy. Did I see philosophy here? Brother Phil, if you are here, I can't see you, but I love you, man, and I miss you on these shows. I'm glad you're here. Donald Trump says, yeah, so he went and had his name added to the building. And obviously there's a humongous backlash to this. People are protesting. And when I say people, I don't mean just folks like you and I, people, anti-Trumpers. I mean musicians. I mean people like Manuel, what is it? Lin-Manuel, Jesus Christ, what is his name? Lin-Manuel, for crying out loud. He canceled an appearance, a performance. So many different musicians are canceling their performances at the Kennedy Center. Lin-Manuel Miranda, there it is, Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I'm glad to see that. I'm very glad to see that because he does not deserve to have his name. He didn't even put it after John F. Kennedy's name. He put it before. Like, who does that? And why? Why do you care? Why do you give a shit? You know what? He is constantly looking to force himself on people. We don't love you. We don't like you. We don't love you, and we never will. Get over it. Get past it. You have your little cult of people. You have your MAGAs. You have the people that will buy your sneakers for your fake gold sneakers for $400 a pair. You have the people who will buy a Trump Bible for $100, and a Trump phone that will never arrive, and all this shit. You have your minions already. You have your suckers. The rest of us want no part of it. It doesn't matter how many things you try to put your name on, how much you try to force yourself on us. Seems like a thing with you. Doesn't matter. We will never accept you. Never. Never. Ever. And then the tariffs. The tariffs happened this year. The tariffs were a huge L for Trump in ways we haven't even begun to see yet. He put tariffs on so many places, so many countries, that he even tariffed an island that has no one and nothing but penguins on it. Penguins. Nothing but penguins. And they were a disaster. One day he would impose tariffs on China. The next day he ended up taking them off or backing down from them. That's why he got a nickname, Taco Trump. Taco Trump, always chickens out. Taco is the acronym. He's had to back down on tariffs for coffee. Why? because we can't make our own coffee here in America. It has to be grown in tropical climates, right? So as such, the price of coffee has skyrocketed. And I love my coffee. I can't get my day started without coffee. The price of the coffee went up because of his tariffs. So he took it off. Why? To bring the price back down. So what does that mean, dumb ass? It means that your tariffs are causing prices to go up. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. I tell you this, if the Supreme Court is supposed to weigh in on whether or not he has the authority to impose these tariffs all over the place. And if they overrule his tariffs, they will be doing him a favor. It will appear as a loss to him, but really that'll be a win. They're saving him from himself. It's like somebody trying to throw themselves off a building and people grab them. That's the Supreme Court grabbing him before he throws himself off of a building. That's what these tariffs are doing. And I don't understand. There are enough people around him who should know better, right? At this point, I'm sure half of MAGA right now is like, dude, come on. They won't admit it publicly, but privately, they're like, fuck. They're pissed. They're pissed because these tariffs are hitting us. They're hitting our pocketbooks. Look, because of these tariffs, I can only buy 2 pencils. Damn it. No, I splurged. I got 3 pencils. The shutdown. The government shutdown, this was the lowest government shutdown in history, the longest government shutdown in history, 53 days. And the last time we had government shutdowns, Donald Trump was president then too. We did not have a government shutdown under President Biden. And guess what? Our economy was the envy of the world. Envy of the world. But the reason why this is a big L is because Donald Trump controls the White House. He controls the House. He controls the Congress. He even controls the Supreme Court. I know these are all supposed to be, separate and equal branches, but, Republicans control all of that. And all they had to do was negotiate to extend the ACA subsidies. That's all Democrats wanted. Republicans tried to cook up some cockamamie excuse. No, Democrats want to give free health care to undocumented immigrants. And when I say undocumented immigrants, that's not what they said, but I'm not using their verbiage. But that wasn't the case at all. We just want you to extend the same subsidies that we've had this whole time. Extend it. You're saying that there's a problem with the ACA, then fix it. Fix the Affordable Care Act. Make some fixes to it. Or if you'd rather, come up with your own plan. Come up with your own health care that works. That's good for all Americans. That's better than the Affordable Care Act. I'm not married to Obamacare. I am married to being able to take care of my family, bring them to the hospital when there's a problem arises. My wife has a surgery coming up in 2 weeks. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do about it. That's probably going to break the bank. But yeah, if you have an idea on how to fix healthcare, then fix it. But don't take away our existing healthcare and leave us in the lurch for 6 months, a year. You've had 15 years to come up with something better, and you still have nothing. So forgive me if we're leery about next steps. It looks like what you're trying to do is leave us in the lurch for, I don't know, 6 months or a year, until we are all desperate, until we're just like, banging our heads against the wall. And then you come up and say, oh, we got this new thing. It's called Trump Care. We're going to do Trump Care now. And because everybody is desperate for health care, they're going to clamor to it the way a starving person clamors for a stale cracker dusted with shit. That was my analogy from last week. Still applies. So anyway, this government shutdown, big fail, big L. I am your retribution. He's not anybody's retribution but his own. And he's not even his own retribution, because he has been trying and failing to indict all these people that he has issues with. Letitia James, James Comey, Jack Smith, what's the guy, the mustache? His name, singer. What's the singer's name with the long hair? They both have the same name. You guys know, big puffy mustache. Anyway, he's been weaponizing the DOJ to go after all of his John Bolton. Singer John Bolton. He's been weaponizing the DOJ to go after his enemies. And how do we know? Because he posted about it. He posted a tweet, to or a Truth Social to Pam Bondi saying, hey, what's the deal? I thought we agreed you're going to go after my enemies, and nothing's happening. How is this normal? You guys in MAGA, you complained that Joe Biden, who, by the way, let his own son be prosecuted, he allowed his own son to be prosecuted, but you were accusing Joe Biden of weaponizing government. This is actually, you never saw Joe Biden saying, hey, go after so-and-so, go after this person, you never saw that. In fact, he went out of his way. To not comment on ongoing investigations. Thank you, Tina Bradford. None of this is normal. None of it. It is all retribution with this small, petty man. And the Epstein files. This dude spent the entire year. He spent the whole year trying to block the release of the Epstein files. This thing that he said he would release if he won the election. So I don't know if he really won the election or not. I guess that's the story we're going with, right? I think if Fox News were to call me for an interview and I was on there with them and they said, did Donald Trump win the 2024 election? I might do what they all did when we asked them, did Joe Biden win the 2020 election? I think I'd play coy and say, Donald Trump is the president. That's not what we mean. What we mean is, do you think he won the election legitimately? Well, he was certified as the president on January 6th. That's not what we mean. And just admit it. He won. I don't know. Why don't you talk to Elon and ask him about that cryptic tweet he dropped about how Donald Trump was so ungrateful. Yeah. In retrospect, I really do wish we had looked into I wish we had looked into why the numbers on that election were so strange. Anyway, I digress. The Epstein files are finally being released, but still not in line with the law that Donald Trump signed that stated that everything had to be released and only redacted just to protect the victims. These things were partially released. I think we've seen 10% of all of the Epstein files, and I think we know already that they've been aggressively redacted. They've been redacted into oblivion, where stuff that should not have been redacted was redacted. Where there were no names of victims revealed, but they were redacted. And how do we know? We know because the incompetent boobs at the DOJ didn't even know how to properly redact these files in Adobe Acrobat. So a bunch of us were able to just copy and paste the shit into a notes document or a Word document, and bada bing, bada boom, there it is. Crazy. Robert Harrington here calling me an election denier. I love it. He says, don't worry, Fox will not interview you. I'm heartbroken by this, Robert. Heartbroken. Okay, so now let's go ahead and jump into that is a big L for him, because it's obvious anybody who is innocent would go out of their way to have these files revealed. Let the chips fall where they may. Bill Clinton came out and said, yeah, bitches, go ahead and release that shit. I'm innocent. And that was in the midst of a bunch of Democrats saying, we don't care. You can have Bill Clinton. They were posting all these weird pictures of Bill with somebody's face blacked out. And we're like, yeah, if he's guilty, throw him under the jail. We don't care. So MAGA was upset that we were insufficiently defensive about Bill Clinton. But Bill was like, I don't need protection. That's what he said. He said, I don't need the protection. Let's go. Show us what you got. So let's cover some Democratic wins in 2025. At the top of the list here, Democrats were very successful in winning some elections this year, whether it was the midterms in November, where Abigail Spanberg won her election. Damn, this microphone is driving me nuts today. Abigail Spanberg won, and Mikey Sherrill won, and even the Prop 50. You guys, if you don't remember what Prop 50 was, Prop 50 was the thing in California. There wasn't even a person, there wasn't even a person with a face running for election in California. It was just this referendum that was asking California residents, would you agree to redistrict in order to counter the bullshit that Texas is doing? Texas is doing a mid-decade redistricting at the behest of Donald Trump. So Gavin Newsom, and meanwhile, Governor Abbott of Texas did not Texas, is it okay if I disagree? It did it. Gavin Newsom actually asked Californians if you vote against it, there wouldn't be any redistricting. And he also put a cap on it too. This Prop 50 said that it will only go until 2030, I think it is. So Californians voted overwhelmingly for it. 60-40, I think, was the final was the final number. And in addition to that, there have been special elections, special election wins all over the place. I think we won 25. This is the important number. There were 25 state representative seats that were won for Democrats, and the Republicans won zero of these. That's humongous. Huge. How Democrats use one word to turn the tide against Trump. That one word is affordability. Affordability is the no word for Trump. If you say that around Donald Trump, he will be pissed. He hates the word affordability. I don't know why, because he was busy using it all throughout 2024. He said he swore he was going to lower prices on day one, and he hasn't lowered a damn price of anything. He hasn't lowered the price. And I say that to say gas prices are lower in some places, in some states around the country, but he didn't lower those gas prices. We all know, you told us when gas prices went down under Joe Biden, you said, presidents don't lower gas prices. Okay, we'll remember when it's time for a Republican president to not lower gas prices. Carla Nicole has hit it on the head. Nothing is affordable. So there were some big electoral wins this year because of affordability, because Democrats were disciplined and consistent on this message. And if we carry that into 2026, it's going to be a brand new day. There's a MAGA civil war that I have this listed in the win column, in the win column for Democrats, and I'll explain why. Because they are fighting each other. And in this instance, they usually there's a saying that goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Nah, the enemy of the enemy is not my friend, but I'm also not going to interfere when Candace Owens is taking shots at Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro is taking shots at Tucker Carlson, and this is all because Tucker Carlson decided that he wanted to platform a self-identifying Nazi, Nick Fuentes. This guy, Nick Fuentes, the guy on the far right in the picture there, he's had some disgusting things to say about everybody. And this is who the GOP wants to platform. And I say that because Tucker Carlson is a prominent member of the GOP, and he has not been denounced, nor has Nick Fuentes. So unless you tell that dude to get the hell out of here, he's part of your party, means he's part of your problem. And that means the people who are kind of moderate, who are not far right and not MAGA, they're going to say, if that's who you represent, maybe I'll take a second look at these Democrats, in which case that's a win for us, baby. The No Kings March and the Hands Off marches from earlier this year were huge. Millions of Americans showed up. There were even people across the sea in different countries marching in support of us. But I love that the No Kings March ruffled so many feathers in the Republican Party. They were trying unsuccessfully to rebrand the No Kings March as the Hate America march. They never looked more like some out of touch parents in the 50s telling you to put away those rock and roll records because the devil the devil is in them. It's pretty hip to not want a king in America. Go figure. Go figure. We don't like autocracy here. You would think that would be that would be something that Republicans, that any patriot should be able to embrace. No, we want a king to tell us what to do, and he should have a fancy ballroom full of gold, and people should be able to bribe him and stuff. Big win. The win, this is double win, right? So Zoran Mamdani, he won, right? He won the mayoral election, but that's not what this photo is about. This win is that Donald Trump overnight he went from saying that Zoran Mamdani would destroy New York, that he was a socialist, communist who was going to destroy the city and would be horrible for it. I think at one point he might have even called him a terrorist, because that's how the bigotry goes. And then Zoran Mamdani went to the White House to meet with Trump willingly. Nobody forced him there. He went. He had a game plan, clearly. The first 30 or 40 minutes were there was no press. No press was allowed in the room. Then they opened it up to press, and it was almost as if Trump had been mind wiped by Mamdani or hypnotized, because they opened it up and it was like a love fest. And he was like, "Oh, I love this guy. He's so great." Reporters asked him, "Mr. President, aren't you afraid that, Mamdani is socialist and he's going to be bad for New York?" "No, I think he'll be great for New York. We both love New York. He's such a wonderful guy. I love him so much." Another reporter asked him, "Well, what about Elise Stefanik?" Elise Stefanik has said that has called Mamdani a jihadist. What do you have to say about that? And Trump said, "Well, people say things." People say things. No, he's a good guy. He wants New York to succeed. I want New York to succeed. So in that moment right there, he took away Elise Stefanik's main attack line, and she pulled out of the race. She pulled out like a week or two ago. That was the funniest byproduct of that meeting there. So that was a tremendous win. And Afton Bain, I'm counting this as a win. Why? Why, you guys are asking? But Brooklyn, Dad, what are you talking about? That's not a win. She lost. Afton Bain ran in Tennessee. She ran in a district that was plus 22 for Trump. Plus 22. That's a landslide. She shouldn't have even been close. She should have been, hopeless there. She said she didn't like country music. And I think what's the main city in Nashville? She said she didn't care for Nashville. She only lost by 10 points. She lost by 10 points. A woman who says she doesn't like country music and didn't care for Nashville lost in a plus 22 district, plus 22 Trump district, lost by 10 points. Lost by 10 points. So You think I'm crazy for thinking that that's a win? That's a humongous win. Why? Because it says that this is a whole new ball game now. We're not just talking about Tennessee. We're talking about across the country. We're talking about districts that were formerly considered, oh, forget about it. Don't even waste your money there in that district because it's plus 10. Now is or plus 9. Plus 9 would have even been enough to write somebody up. But now plus 9 means we have a fighting chance at winning. It's a whole new ball game. So yeah, that's a huge win. This is the biggest win in my opinion. And then last but not least, we have some consequential events of 2025. Donald Trump unleashed his ICE agents on America. And the fireworks have already started here. He's unleashed his Gestapo people who are grabbing thugs, who are grabbing people coming out of immigration court, grabbing people at work, grabbing mothers, grabbing abuelas, grabbing kids. They are supposed to be going after the worst of the worst. The worst. Who's the worst of the worst? These are the murderers and the rapists that Donald Trump was talking about in his infamous escalator speech. The worst of the worst. But you're grabbing a guy, 71 years old, who raised 3 Marines. You're grabbing a grandpa who raised 3 U.S. Marines? That's your worst of the worst? You're grabbing U.S. citizens? They've already grabbed almost 100 U.S. citizens. They're grabbing people because they've been incentivized with some kind of bounty, right? So they don't care how many bodies they grab. They're just going to grab them. And they're wearing masks. They don't identify themselves. So now you're creating a situation where if you see these people, you're not safe. You're not safe because already there have been instances where people dress up as ICE and they claim to be ICE and then they get attacked. They get victimized by imposters because it's so easy. These guys, these ICE agents are not identifying themselves and they act with impunity and force in these unmarked vans. It's insane. So as a result of this, believe it or not, there are a lot of Latino voters who have had a come to Jesus moment where they realize, oops, I voted against myself. I'm not going to hold it against them publicly here, but I am pissed at you. I am pissed at you because we did say that this was going to happen. We did warn you. That's it. Charlie Kirk was killed earlier this year in September. I was not a fan of Charlie Kirk. I don't think he was a good guy. We disagreed on damn near just about every point you could possibly disagree on. That said, he absolutely did not deserve to be killed for exercising his right to free speech. Period. There's a lot of people I disagree with that I don't like. I don't think anybody should be killed. Full stop. You know, it was a terrible day for America. Ever since then, the Republicans have been exploiting his death. They're grifting on it big time, big time. You've even seen pictures of a booth made up to look like the booth where he was sitting when he was shot. People are paid to take pictures in that. That's insane. That is just That's grotesque, gruesome. And I'll say this, I know people say that everybody grieves in their own way. That's true. But I know that if my wife were killed, there's no way I'd be out there cheesing and smiling and having big events with fireworks going off behind me and kissing some woman that I, barely know, on a stage. And that whole scene is disgusting. But this was a terrible moment for America, and I hope it doesn't happen again. I don't care who it is. That's not who we are. We are America, the beautiful. We believe that everyone has the right to free speech, even somebody who says that civil rights were a mistake, and that if you had a black pilot flying you somewhere, you would feel less safe. Even those people. I'm revisiting this one here, this Mamdani win, because he's Muslim. He had everything going against him in this race. Everybody's calling him a democratic socialist or a communist, people who don't know the difference between, they had a lot of negative things to say about him. There were many millionaires who were contributing money to defeat him, and he overcame that, and he won with a name like Zoran Mamdani, which is even more foreign sounding than Barack Obama. So he had the Muslim thing going against him. He had the brown guy going against him, and he had the democratic socialist thing going against him. And New Yorkers were like, I like what he has to say. So I think this is important. It's an important moment because this guy was disciplined and he stayed on message, and his message was affordability. So that sends a message to me, and it should send a message to Democrats that as long as you stay on message and you stay disciplined and you make your campaign about helping people, helping improve the lives of people, you will win. That's that. There's plenty of people out there who care about donors and care about billionaires and all that stuff. That he was unshakable. This guy ran a brilliant campaign and even beat Andrew Cuomo. Although you got to give Andrew Cuomo some credit for beating himself. And last but not least, the most consequential event of 2025. This is consequential in that it will immediately affect the 25 million people or more who are enrolled under this ACA, who will no longer have subsidies to help pay for their insurance. And like myself, mine is supposed to go from $800 a month to almost $3,000 a month. That's not affordable. That's not affordable at all. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. Don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know that I'm not going to stay silent. I do know that I am going to continue fighting, not just for myself, but for those millions of Americans that I don't know in blue states and in red states, Democratic voters, Republican voters, even non-voters, anybody and everybody who needs health care. Needing a life-saving operation shouldn't be a death sentence. You shouldn't have to go bankrupt because you want to stay alive. But that's what it's come to here in America. And there, you know what? There are some things that Trump has brought up that are valid. I will give him that. There is a point that he's making that insurance companies are making too much. I agree. Fix it. But don't take away our health insurance before you fix it, you stupid asshole. Fix it. But don't take away our ability to keep our families covered. Use your influence and extend those subsidies. All right, now they can't extend them now, but there is supposed to be a vote on January 6th for, I think, 3 years, a 3-year extension. Joanne Kennedy says Medicare for all. Yes, why not? Why not? I hear it's working in some places. But something is better than nothing. And with that said, there we go. I would like to wish you all Happy New Year's Eve, soon to be Happy New Year. I want to thank you guys who have stuck with me throughout 2025 and 2024 and 2023. There are going to be some changes here next year. Storytime with BDD will be no more. Instead, it will be The Defiant Weekly. Yeah, it's a branding change. So I look forward to you guys joining me there. It's going to be kind of a little bit new format and some things happening. What I hope for in 2026 is not just a win, not just retaking the House in November, but also taking the Senate as well. And that requires some shit to happen. A lot of things have to break our way, but I think it's possible. I no longer think it is improbable. I think it is possible. And not just possible, but highly possible, because Republicans have fumbled the ball. They have abdicated their responsibility to their constituents. They have abdicated their oath to the Constitution. They are letting Donald Trump run roughshod over the Constitution and start a war with Venezuela, and basically doing whatever he wants to do unilaterally without being checked by any of the checks and balances that are supposed to be in our Congress. The House of Representatives and the Senate are supposed to stand against this guy, not, wave him through. What the hell? He's killing people in the ocean, destroying that he calls narco terrorists. Where's the evidence? He's destroyed it conveniently. I saw somebody earlier today talking about those extrajudicial. Thank you so much, KD Mullins. I appreciate the donation. I saw somebody, I think it was a clip from CNN, who said, okay, well, if you think that the extrajudicial killings of these narco terrorists are okay, how about the what's the name of it? Is it the Sacklings? Who are the people that what's the family that was responsible for oxycodone? That family. I feel like it's Sacklings, something like that. How would you feel, she said, if they were executed in the town square? I need you guys to tell me who that was. Sacklers. Thank you, Joanne. Yeah. How about if they were executed in the town square? Well, that's a different story. Why? Why is it a different story? What they did They convinced people to use their stuff, and it ended up killing people. You know, what's the difference? What's the difference, huh? White collar versus no collar? They still killed Americans, lots of them. But anyway, yeah, I want to see Democrats reclaim the Congress, both the House and the Senate. And I also want to see some people fired from their jobs. And that is primarily, in this order, Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi. Those two, mainly. And I say those two because the Pentagon and the Department of Justice are two of the main departments that should be above politics. They should be beyond reproach. You shouldn't be able to tell what party they belong to. They shouldn't be, cheerleaders for the president. They should just be doing their jobs. That's it. It's fine. I'm not saying that they can't be Republican. We've had Republican people who were Secretary of Defense and the U.S. Attorney General, but they didn't wear their colors on their sleeve. Robert Gates, he was the head of the DOJ at one point, and we've had so many different Republican secretaries of defense, but it never felt like they were part of the president's campaign team as opposed to they were Team USA. And that's the difference. That's the difference right there. It's funny that you're saying little Joey Goebbels. I feel like you're talking about Stephen Miller, but I'm not sure. And excellent question from Tina Bradford. Is the show moving to Wednesdays? We shall see. I think I've seen an interesting bump on Wednesdays. So for right now, assume yes. For now, but possibly not. Let's see. Should Chuck be in prison? I don't know which Chuck you are referring to. If you're talking about Chuck Schumer, I don't even get that. He is as milquetoast as you could possibly imagine anybody being. The only thing I think he's guilty of is his sternly written letters. Yeah, that's what would he be in prison for, man? Come on, give me a serious question. But in any case, once again, thank you guys for joining me for Storytime with BDD. I look forward to seeing you guys here next year. Same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.